So what is Tufin? I'm not going to take too long because I think most of you know who Tufin is. But just to position Tufin the way we position it today, we are the security policy company. And we're the policy company and everything has to do with network access, as in who can talk to whom or what can talk to what over the network. And I think Jeff already mentioned some of the key things that happened to us recently. One of the interesting things that happened in last year was we went public on the New York Stock Exchange after 14 years. So that was a significant accomplishment. But now, rolled up our sleeves and continuing to the next milestone. So let's talk a little bit about what we do for our customers. We are focused primarily on large organizations. Most of the people, or the vast majority of the people on this call, are in large organizations. And what's unique about large organizations is that they have a very large and complex network. It's complex to the point that we sometimes think of it as an organism because it changes all the time. And we also think of it as being fragmented because you have multiple vendors. You have hundreds, tens, or sometimes hundreds of firewalls, thousands of routers and switches, most of you. A lot of you are dabbling in private cloud, so you might have VMware NSX or Cisco ACI. A lot of you are moving into the public cloud or are already there, Azure, Google Cloud, AWS. Some of you have developers writing things in Kubernetes. And I'm mentioning all these things because they're all relevant. They're all part of the overarching network. And one of the things that we found with customers is that a lot of times they don't have a good security policy that defines who can talk to whom or what can talk to what over the pervasive network. So what we've introduced is essentially a centralized security management layer that connects to all of your network devices and all the network platforms, whether it's your firewalls, routers and switches, private cloud, public cloud, and even Kubernetes. And we're monitoring every change that occurs, and we're enabling customers to define a policy that is relevant for all the parts of the organization. So a lot of you have heard of Secure Track, Secure Change, and Secure App. And we've recently introduced Secure Cloud. And Secure Cloud is the way for us to do the same for cloud native environments, but in a way that doesn't disrupt DevOps teams as they're working through their CI/CD processes. So the platform for Tufin is, first of all, policy-centric. Policy is the key to it all. A lot of times when we meet customers for the first time, we ask them, what governs your decision-making process? Do you actually have a policy? And a lot of customers, it's interesting, even the most advanced organizations don't have a well-defined formalized policy. I mean, they have some policy, but a lot of it is maybe a PDF document collecting dust. It's not something that can be modified easily or something that people check on a continuous basis. So we help customers define their policy in a formal manner, both in the on-premise network and in the cloud. And then we automate network changes, right? So if you want to make a change, most organizations, it takes about a week to implement a network change, and then you still get it wrong because you don't have a well-defined policy. So we enable customers to implement changes in minutes instead of days with dramatically better security and policy. And on the flip side, in cloud native environments, where things are done very, very quickly, usually there's a lack of policy. So there's no need to automate really the DevOps environment, but there is a need to bring policy oversight. So we're providing visibility and control for security managers over cloud environments and over Kubernetes environments. So the value proposition around Tufin, it's interesting because we're a little bit different from most security companies. A lot of security companies, the value prop is almost entirely risk avoidance, right? Or compliance. And for us, it's risk avoidance and compliance is obvious because we're enabling you to define a policy and enforce it, but we're also automating things. And automation is key because we're enabling people to do a lot more with less resources. I think especially in the current environment, that becomes even more critical than before. So I think, even though organizations are going to keep investing in security, I don't think they're going to be investing in more people. If anything, they're going to ask you guys to reduce the number of people, and they're going to ask you to do a lot more with less. So how do you do that? You have to automate, right? And I think Tufin's automation solutions are going to be even more critical in this new world that we're unfortunately been thrust into.
So I'm pleased to welcome Carlo Gardner. So Carlo is with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts. Carlo is a network security engineer responsible for planning, designing, audit, and implementing security to protect and improve the efficiency of their organization. He's been contributing to the IT field for over 10 years, working as a field service engineer in his early years, and has acquired several certifications in the network security space, certainly complementing his skill set. So I want to welcome Carlo, and also want to welcome Dan Rowe, who will be joining Carlo as part of the presentation. Dan is a dynamic member of our product management team. He's responsible for designing new cybersecurity solutions and integrations for Tufin. He's been working in IT and IT security for over 10 years with prior experience in penetration testing and vulnerability management. He's putting that sociology degree to hard work here at Tufin, and he's been a valuable employee here for us for a number of years. So Carlo, Dan, welcome. Thanks for joining us here today. We appreciate it. And I will turn it over to you.
I'm going to really quickly go through kind of the premise and agenda for the overview of Blue Cross Blue Shield today with Carlo. And then we're going to learn a little bit more about how they are using Tufin today. And they're actually one of, I think, one of the more long-standing customers here at Tufin. In terms of Blue Cross Blue Shield today, we're primarily going to be talking about Secure Track and some of the functionality and features that Blue Cross Blue Shield has been using there. The purpose here is an advertisement of any sorts, but to hear from Carlo about how they've been using certain features to see if maybe there's things that our current customers already have installed that they can get some better benefit out of. Before I hand it over to him, I wanted to really kind of quickly cover the network security policy management maturity model. This is something that we've designed and developed here at Tufin. We worked with a number of different outside analysts too to kind of validate it. But it's something that our customers undertake in the effort to balance security and agility. For most of our customers, they typically start with visibility, trying to understand their network connectivity, what can talk to what, and should things be talking to one another, right? Once we have that visibility, customers then typically undertake a cleanup initiative. So let's back out the policies that are unnecessary, whether they be redundant or shadowed, or maybe they're risky. They pose a threat to our business. If someone would be able to compromise our network and pivot around, and then move onwards to the ability to automatically design changes and analyze for risk in those. So an achieved state where we've effectively achieved policy health optimization, the ability to retain that moving forward. Organizations then often undertake application-driven automation, which is providing the benefits of automation and network policy management to the application teams and providing basically the interface that app owners require to input connectivity requirements, and then allowing networking to automate those changes to deliver business agility and connectivity as needed. And of course, most organizations that are pursuing automation kind of hold zero-touch automation as the state of nirvana, if you will. For today's presentation, we're primarily going to be talking mostly about visibility and cleanup, and actually some of the steps towards analysis and design. This is the closest thing to an agenda slide that we have in terms of what Carlo and I are going to talk about today. Carlo, I kind of skipped over, I guess, the overview of Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts, but could you give us just kind of a quick 2-3 sentence overview of what you and your team are responsible for doing for them?
So, hi guys, thanks for having me here today. I certainly would come on camera, but like I've told these guys, I've been knee deep all week. So, you know, my apologies for not showing my face, but again, thank you for having me. So here at Blue Cross Blue Shield, I am part of the NetSec team. We do handle a lot of the network implementations, you name it, from ACI to lateral movements on the network security and all that stuff, and a different aspect. So, you know, my main function in this is like, I was introduced by Jeff in regards to just a lot of implementations around security. And also just, you know, again, like with this COVID-19 epidemic here, 95% of our workforce, is dependent on the infrastructure working from home. And one of those things is having resiliency with our VPNs, making sure that, it's always up and running. Infrastructure applications are always up and running. We are a small shop of some cloud-based apps, which is managed in the, I think it's Cloudflare region, and we have a direct connect into Amazon for some of our applications. So all of those are managed by, the team which I'm involved with, NetSec and the network group. So I kind of dabble in both area, but my specific area in Blue Cross is the security, which we're going to touch on how Tufin has certainly helped us to not only help us to build our firewall policies a lot more tighter and also less permissive as we have changing of the guards.
So Carlo, I think you segued really nicely into probably one of the first use cases. As you mentioned, connectivity is a big part of the responsibility here, ensuring that it exists within the network as it's needed. So how are you guys currently using the change tracking capabilities of SecureTrack? What's the usage within your team, and what are kind of the benefits you guys are getting out of that?
So, for change tracking, as we mentioned, we don't use the change tracking as part of our integration. We are certainly working towards that in our future rollout. Currently, we have ServiceNow, and we have not done the integration. ServiceNow was fully deployed the end of last year into the environment, so we're adapting different integrations, and Tufin is one of the things that we are looking to integrate within the near future. As far as some of these change trackings, as you're talking about here, as far as changes being made within the environment in our firewall areas, we rely upon the revision piece by leveraging Tufin for revisions based on changes in our firewall policy. Again, this is a quick reference point on when any changes are made based upon an admin or firewall change, whether it's an approve or someone just say, okay, I'm going to go in and make this change because it's needed and we didn't get no buy-in. So we always use this as a reference point with our revisions from our firewall changes, and to help us just not only for visibility and audit perspective, but also a quick way of referencing what was changed, and if we need to roll back on a policy or build back a policy, this is a reference point for us.
Okay, great. And as you said earlier, right, sometimes you need to roll back policy if things have changed, and sometimes that can be due to the fact that some connectivity was removed inadvertently. To that end, I know some of the efforts that you and your team are undertaking are kind of the policy optimization and cleanup. Hopefully not break anything, but if you do, I guess you have the revision tracking capabilities. In terms of like the cleanup initiatives, Carlo, how do you guys approach that using SecureTrack?
So that's a great question. So for us, one of the biggest thing as an healthcare company, we don't rely on external audits alone to really kind of come in and tell us what we need to do. We leverage Tufin. They have the compliance and audit piece that ties into Tufin. We leverage that audit function from a vendor, all vendors compliance piece, and also from a checkpoint compliance piece. So what that does is really give us, okay, what is the market really looking at for compliance? Within that, we look at the checks and balance that's built into this tool, and it gives us some great things to really weed out any type of things which will impact our rule base or score from an audit perspective. And again, we talk about permissiveness, we talk about redundant rules, we talk about active, inactive rules, we talk about, rules that have large IP addresses and all those stuff. So we use that stuff to really grade ourselves and tighten up our rules. So when an external auditor come in, and whether it's Verizon, whether it's pharma, whether it's iTrust, we are already ahead of, kind of ahead of the curveball based upon these self audits, which we rely from, the audit functions within Tufin. So again, that help us in a lot of way in delivering, strong metrics to our senior leader team to say, okay, our firewalls are great. There is no, holes open up that shouldn't be there. And it just provides a lot of visibility for us as a healthcare company. So, we can say, I think the ROI on this tool is great. You know what I mean?
It's great to hear. And Carlo, you were saying that you guys are kind of coupling both cleanup and risk identification and remediation efforts using Tufin. When we're talking about cleanup, we're talking about identifying redundant or shadowed rules, right? Just in the event that we clean up the initial rule, that access might still exist. The other thing that you and your team are responsible for doing is kind of proactively identifying risks within the environment, so that way security hopefully has a lot less to deal with on the reactive side. How are you guys doing or utilizing the risk management capabilities of SecureTrack in your efforts?
So again, we mesh. So from a security perspective, also that help us also to really, kind of again get ahead of what's in our firewall policy. And certainly that's another piece, like our egress points. We definitely definitely rely on the risk for egress points, because what we look at there is see how it can help us to really, tighten up the policy, and also our DMZs. Those, for that piece, for the risk, we leverage that security risk report for DMZ and the egress points. And certainly we've seen benefits in reducing a lot of risky rules, a lot of risky services from our environment within, again, the egress point and our DMZs.
So you think the security team is generally benefiting from this?
Absolutely.
Are they? All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Say, otherwise, it's a bunch of fresh guys, and they don't know how things have changed over time.
Yeah.
One of the other pieces that I know you guys are heavy consumers of is the reporting capabilities within SecureTrack, not only for, as you were saying, like internal audits, but for external ones too. How are you guys leveraging the reporting capabilities of SecureTrack today to help overall kind of security and audit readiness?
So, from a managerial perspective, we have several functionalities for gathering metrics. Tufin is one of them, maybe some checkpoint stuff, maybe some extra up, but the focus for us for within Tufin is really taking the metrics from Tufin based upon the firewall cleanup that we've done from this best practice audit you have on the screen. And what that does is, if you look at the report you have in front of you, as, we look at certain things, which is a critical NDIs. Anything that's critical has to be looked at ASAP. The eyes, we work around, standard change policies to get those cleaned up. And we've actually, these then are presented to our CISO and or CIO in their monthly meetings on what exactly is happening in our firewall area.
So that's great. So you guys are actually providing kind of board level visibility over the current state of risk on a recurring basis. And that's something that they're able to kind of consume and understand.
Yes, correct.
That's great. Carlo, thank you so much for your presentation. Of course, all the preparation work that went into this, working with us beforehand, greatly appreciated. Thank you.
You're very welcome.